We continue our sermon series, Who Do You Say I Am? And today we are looking at Jesus as our thirst quencher. It really revolves around the woman at the well as she comes to the well to get water for her and her family for the needs that they have. She comes at noon, which is not typical of when women would come to the well, but she comes at that time so that she can avoid the stares and the eye contact and perhaps the gossip as well. But as she comes that day, Jesus is there and encounters her and doesn't shy away from talking to her. It is a time when she realizes how spiritually thirsty she is, but perhaps didn't know it. She is a woman of faith. We know that from the story. She's a woman who believes in God, but perhaps didn't realize how much she needed this Jesus to acknowledge her, to see her, as Jesus does for so many people. Jesus quenches her thirst in that very moment by allowing her to see who she really is through his eyes. There was a time when I was really spiritually thirsty, and interestingly enough, I didn't know it. It was a time when I went on a retreat, and these are 3-day weekends. Some of you may know them as, Cum Cristo is the one I went to. There's the Emmaus Walk, there's Tres Dias, there's Via de Cristo. For me, it was a time of great change in my life, in that I came to recognize that I really was thirsty, spiritually thirsty, but didn't know it. And it happened on that weekend because I recognized that while I knew, not only as a pastor, but also as a person, if there was someone in need, I would do just about anything I could do to help them. But what I'd never realized, and this is the thirsty part in my life, is that I never realized, or I never owned the fact that other people would do that for me as well. You see, love your neighbor as yourself doesn't just mean that I love my neighbor, but in the midst of that, my neighbor is loving me back. And so that was eye-opening for me, to know that there are people in this world who love me unconditionally, may not even know who I am, but share Christ's love with me. The Lord sent people my way as my eyes were opened up to this revelation that I now am better able to let other people help me when I need help, and to help quench whatever thirst it is that I have, physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be. So we look to Jesus as our thirst quencher. How has Jesus been a thirst quencher for you? How has Jesus perhaps hydrated your spiritual life, maybe even at a time when you didn't even know that you were thirsty? Next week, we're going to take a look at Jesus as our sight giver. We're going to look at the man born blind. We're also going to look at blind Bartimaeus and how Jesus gave sight to them physically, but also the spiritual sight that we get from Jesus. Until then, may God's blessings be upon you.